Hi, welcome to Journey of Restoration, CPR style, the foundations. Today we're embarking on a journey to deepen our self-awareness and spiritual growth. Our sessions will focus on 4 key objectives. Encourage self-reflection and honesty, provide a biblical standard for inner alignment, challenge individuals to invite Jesus into every area of their lives, and last, offer a practical path to healing and transformation. Let's embark together on this transformative journey, embracing self-reflection, aligning with biblical truths, inviting Jesus into every facet of our lives, and walking the path toward healing and transformation. Let's get going.
Take a deep breath. Now, I want you to rewind the past 72 hours of your life, your thoughts, your words, and your actions. Imagine every moment was secretly recorded and is about to play on a giant screen for the world to see. Would you be excited? Or would you want to just go crawl under a rock? If you experience that uneasy feeling, that's a signal that something inside might need attention. The only thing that's worse than living in a mess is pretending the mess doesn't exist. Or what I like to say is the only thing worse than being a hot dysfunctional mess is being a hot dysfunctional mess in denial. So how do we know if something's wrong? There's a biblical standard for our inner world. The Bible clearly gives us ways to measure what's going on inside. In Philippians 4:8, it challenges us to fill our minds with what is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy. If our thoughts don't align, something needs to shift. Galatians 5:22 and 23 describes the evidence of a transformed life. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. If stress and pressure cause bitterness, fear, or anger to spill out instead, your heart is sending a warning. These aren't just checklists, they're mirrors. They reflect whether we're aligned with the life of God desires for us. So think about a house, maybe your grandmother's house where she had a good room, the one with the pristine plastic covered furniture that no one was actually allowed to use. It looked perfect, but it wasn't meant for real life. Many of us treat Jesus the same way. We invite him into the good room of our lives, the parts that look polished and put together, but behind the closed doors, we keep the mess hidden. What's in the rooms that you don't want him to see? Is it unforgiveness, secret struggles, lingering fears, or even simmering anger? You can't heal what you hide, and you can't crucify what you cover. There is a real invitation, and that invitation is to let him in. Healing starts with honesty. Ask yourself, do I carry unforgiveness? Am I holding on to sin or fear or anger? Do I invite Jesus into my struggles? Or only do I invite him when I need something? Our thoughts and habits shape our reality. If our inner world doesn't align with Philippians 4:8 and Galatians 5:22 and 23, it's more than a spiritual issue. It's a sign that our minds need rewiring. But here's the good news. Transformation is possible. Imagine if you allow Jesus into every room, not just the presentable one. He doesn't come in as a polite guest. He comes in as a renovator. He brings the Holy Spirit, the ultimate contractor, to clear out the clutter of sin and fear and anger. He doesn't wait for perfection. He steps into your reality as it is, and he restores us from the inside out. So he may not just come and force his way in. I want to encourage you to invite him in. So here is a challenge. Your next step. Take some time to reflect and to be real with yourself. Is Jesus only in your good room, or does he have access to the messy places? Are you ready to stop hiding and start healing? Will you let him transform every part of your life, not just the parts easy to show? Jesus is willing. Jesus is able. The question is, will you let him in?
This section is all about self-awareness and being honest with yourself before God, who loves you, created you, and knows all the nitty-gritty details anyway. I love Dr. Lori's saying the only thing worse than being a big, hot, dysfunctional mess is being a big, hot, dysfunctional mess in denial, because it's so true. And the truth is that most of your greatest strengths are actually accompanied by equally great weaknesses. The good news is that God can work through all of it, in spite of us. For me, I have often been told that I carry a strong presence when I walk into the room, and this can be a real strength when it's used for God's glory. But I think my sister said it best when she said, "Ann Nolan, you are so much fun and you bring so much joy and laughter to the room. But it's like you have one hand on the fun plug. And if things go south and you're not happy, you can quickly rip that fun plug from the wall, and no matter how hard anybody tries, the fun's over." Realizing this about myself was huge. That I had the opportunity to either carry in fun and joy and peace and his presence into the room, or I could completely shift the atmosphere and make the entire room miserable. And this had been pretty much my mode of operation up until this point in my life. I had always been a huge overachiever, very driven, type A personality. I was used to taking control of a situation and problem solving. So when crisis came crashing down in my life and everything was out of my control, that's when my true fruits came out. When I was squeezed, what came out was very different from the fruits of the Spirit. And this was a huge revelation for me. A game changer for me was the personal encounter I had with God in Oklahoma. It came with a peace that I'd never experienced. From that point forward, my number one goal was to stay connected with him and to carry his peace into the chaos of my life. See, my circumstances hadn't changed, but my perspective had. To experience a personal touch from God, the creator of the universe, that blew my mind. Even despite the storms in my life, I could still carry his peace. So the eye-opener for me was the biblical standards. The guardrails were given of Philippians 4:8 and Galatians 5:22. I had never realized the correlation between what we allow ourselves to think about and then our ability to walk in the fruits of the Spirit. I once heard Dr. Lori say, "These are the things, Ann Nolan, that you're allowed to think about. You're allowed to think about Philippians 4:8, mic drop. That's it." I began to notice how when my mind was on anything other than good or lovely or praiseworthy or honorable things, my countenance began to change. I would lose my peace. It was at this point that I realized I was going to have to be very intentional. The things I was hearing and seeing and listening to were having a noticeably negative effect on me. I remember another sister calling and saying, "Hey, what's wrong? You're sounding stressed." And I remember telling her, "I know exactly what it was. I've been thinking about things I'm not supposed to be thinking about." I could tell the difference. There are unpleasant things in my life, and there were very unpleasant things in my life at that time that I would have to give my attention to. But the key was to know that after an appropriate amount of time, it is up to me to decide to lay it down at the feet of Jesus and turn my attention back to his face and his goodness. This has been such a huge struggle for me. And sometimes I felt like God was literally having to pry my concerns from my fingers. But it's so necessary. Another thing to go was the news. I was going to have to find another source for current events because I could feel the tension in my neck and shoulders and see myself getting irritable when the news was on. I remember various people calling me gossip or complain about any given topic. And I remember, kind of like an alcoholic, saying, I'm sorry, but I am not healthy enough to be a part of this conversation. I knew that by hearing that negativity, I was going to get stirred up, maybe even pick it up and take it on as my problem, and it's not mine to carry. Even listening to someone else complain was making a difference in my countenance and my ability to carry his peace. Bottom line, our input affects our output. It's such a helpful practice to take note of all the things that enter your senses through the day and hold them up to the biblical standards of Philippians 4:8. I actually have the verses framed in my bathroom so that I see them several times a day. And if you're like me, it will really surprise you. Everything you watch, whether it's on TV or your screen, social media, everything you allow yourself to hear, everyone you allow yourself to listen to, everything that every show you watch, they all have the ability to shape our attitudes and throw a damp rag on our connection with God. As someone whose mind is always active, turning round and round, I found that if I didn't fill it with things of God, it would quickly begin to wander out of bounds. Listening to worship music, Christian podcasts, Christian audiobooks, all of those have been great ways for me to be intentional, as well as listening to the time I give to negative sources. That if I want to carry God's peace and stay connected with Him, I have to think about what I'm thinking about. And the more I focus on His face and His glory, the more the fruits of the Spirit will begin to bubble out.
Take a deep breath in and out. You can even close your eyes for a moment. I want you to actually do what Dr. Lori talked about. Imagine that starting right now, a documentary crew begins following you for the next 72 hours. They capture everything: your conversations, your habits, your prayers, your private thoughts, and your raw emotions. They don't miss a thing. No filter, no edits, just you as you are. Now imagine that this footage is being edited down to the most real, raw, and revealing moments of your life. Not the boring stuff, not the polished moments you like to present to the world, just the ones that show the truth of how you live, what you believe, and how you connect with yourself and with God. And in just a few days, this documentary will be played in front of this whole group. 10 questions are going to appear on the screen. Write your answers in your journal and be prepared to open up in discussion. Pause this video once the 10 questions appear and allow time to journal. Answer them and take a few moments to discuss as long as your time allows. Then return to the video for a quick wrap up for this session. I hope you had a rich discussion. As you look over your answers, I want to leave you with one last thought. If this documentary showed your truest self, the version of you that God already sees, what would you want to change about yourself? Not for the sake of the audience, but for the sake of who God made you to be. Take in a deep breath and know this: God already sees your unedited life, and He loves you completely.
So let me explain your daily challenge for walking it out this week in connection with self. It has two parts. First, there's a daily fruit of the Spirit inventory provided for you. Take an honest look at how often you display the fruit of the Spirit each day by checking either often, sometimes, or rarely. This is not to beat ourselves up, but for self-awareness. As we become aware, we can invite God into those places. For example, maybe kindness was easy today, but patience felt like a struggle. Maybe peace seemed distant, but self-control was really good. Notice that and write it down. When we do this regularly, we start to see patterns. We can celebrate the areas where we're growing and invite God to help us in the areas that are harder. For the second part of your homework, consider Philippians 4:8. As we begin the process of taking our thoughts captive, Philippians 4:8 gives us a clear guide for what we're to set our minds on. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Refer to the list provided for you. Each day, ask yourself, what is one thought I had today that fits this list? This simple practice trains your mind to focus on the good instead of getting stuck in negativity. You're learning to see life through God's perspective. This is a final encouragement. This is about you connecting with yourself, becoming aware of how you're growing and where you need God's help. So this week, do your fruit of the Spirit inventory each day. Journal one thought that fits Philippians 4:8 and ask God to grow the fruits that are harder for you right now. You're not in this alone. He is with you, shaping you, and every small step matters.